Eh? Oh, you bastard! £3.5 up the swallow.
Come in, the girls just pal.
Owned it. Welcome. Get up,
Hello, boys and girls, lads and lassies. Welcome back to Wednesday night's movies. And tonight, it's 2001: A Space Odyssey. And before we get into it, we're going to look at my wee video for my advertising for my sponsor for this month only. So, hi, this is a wee message for the February sponsor, which is, believe it or not, Iron Brew. And even the dogs love Iron Brew. So, for the month of February, if you leave a comment in any of the videos with the hashtag Iron Brew, I'll be picking out 3 winners. The first prize will be an Iron Man picture, as you can see there. The second prize, or the next 2 prizes, will get an Iron Brew t-shirt, an Iron Brew keyring, and an Iron Brew sticker for either the car or window. So, the t-shirts are medium. I will post anywhere in the world. If there is any import costs out with that, I can't pay that, but as it's a gift, there shouldn't be. If you're interested in winning any of the prizes, just put hashtag Iron Brew in any comment in the month of February. I will be doing the draw on the 1st of March and I will contact the winners and get it posted. Thank you very much to Bars for supplying me with some odds and ends. Thank you very much. And you saying goodbye, boys? Yes, I thought so. You too? Right, back to the show. Yay! So there you go, sponsored by Iron Brew. So, 2001: A Space Odyssey. Thoughts initial?
Can I wake up now?
Yeah, I agree there, Jim.
Yeah. God, it was slow in parts though.
Yeah, it would be.
Visually, it's amazing. But I was thinking, I really can't see it being made for a modern audience. 20 odd minutes plus in before the word's spoken. You know, I mean, the modern ones these days, they turn off if there weren't any explosions in the first 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My thoughts on it, I must admit, initial ones were, I have got fonder memories from my past watching it, and it is space porn. Visually, it is stunning, but boring as hell. Rewatching it, I was sitting there going, because there was so much of nothing happening. It was a case of, right, we're going for a spacewalk, so we'll visually show you the craft going slowly to where it's going. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's going to turn round now. And I'm sitting there thinking, really? But I had definitely, I remember it fondly, but rewatching it with nowadays, it's almost a case of slow. Yeah, I mean, I could watch paint drying, it would be drying faster. I was surprised how much I felt that way because I have got fond memories of it. Fond memories seeing it the first time. And it's almost a case of, wow, that just, it was so visually stunning. Then rewatching it, the visual stunning turned into it's only visually stunning.
Yes.
The music, fair enough, the accompaniment was great throughout, but It'd be like watching an orchestra creating a music video.
Mm-hmm.
The story was just so yeah. I must admit, the funnest part was right at the beginning.
Well, yeah, also sprach Zarathustra. See, I can speak German, and the Blue Danube I was fine with. Unfortunately, that bloody music they did for the Monolith, I ended up turning the sound off when that was on. That was just grating on my nerves. No, no, not that. No, not that.
What the
screechings? Yeah, literally.
Yeah, it's the chorus going. Oh,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, that's it. But
that's the way.
Jim mentioned something down there. I thought for those of a certain fans of a certain book series,
the Bobaverse. That was me introduced Jim to it.
No, I was going to say. I'm thinking, okay, so I'm wondering if maybe we should call that ape that was experimenting with the things. I think maybe we should call him Archimedes. I'm thinking,
definitely a Bobaverse. But see, the good thing is the Bobaverse takes a lot of tropes from a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah,
and puts them in there. Yes, it definitely was. And Darren. Moon 02, Sunday's one that I watched, I could see the visually similarity to Space 1999 and UFO. However, it was a bit slow, but I actually thought it was not as bad because the story throughout, even though it was slow in parts, whereas this, it's the two guys, something goes wrong, they speak about it, but that's like half an hour.
Yeah.
Or that wee tiny part of the story. Whereas at least with Moon 02, it was slow, but the story was always...
Yeah.
The acting wasn't great. Let's put it that way. Leonard Breslau with a gun.
Yeah, can I just say something? Moon 02 was done on the cheap, 2001 wasn't.
Yeah, Moon 02 was done the cheap, but you've got some fairly well-known actors. Bernard Breslau. Yeah. You had Alf Garnett. What do you call him?
Oh, no, you're on about,
his name's just basically...
Warren Mitchell.
Warren Mitchell. But I actually enjoyed Moon 02 better than this. Visually, I enjoyed this better than Moon 02.
Yeah.
But you're paying a lot of money for the visuals. And visuals are great because visuals can do anything. Like, it can show how big my man cave is. Right, let's go.
Drum roll.
Big man cave, really great. But visuals are great for that. They can show you anything you want to see. So,
yeah,
but
you could tell that.
Visually, I must admit, it is a stunning one. Truthfully, I could have watched it with the sound off and had as much of an enjoyment of it.
I think the problem is, I was looking at it and there's some that sort of from you want to watch, you go, sorry, wait, what's going on here? Hold on. Why did that happen? But when you want to measure it, if you think this film came out 2 years after Star Trek ended, and a year before Neil Armstrong fluffed his lines on the moon. This came out a year before the moon landing. Oh, and incidentally, it was set 10 years after Pan Am folded. Pan Am folded in 1991, and apparently they were still flying space shuttles in 2001. So,
the dogs are actually going crazy. So they are. And it's not trying to get in my room, it's trying to get in my wife's room because she's got friends over doing some work.
Oh, no.
And the two of them, that's what the whining is. If you hear the whining in the background, the dogs aren't allowed in the room. So I'm going to actually go off camera and go and get my dogs, like you used to. Talk.
You can actually see, I think that's 9 years before Star Wars came out, didn't it? I think Star Wars was 77.
Yeah, Star Wars was 77.
And you can definitely see so much, the special effects in particular.
Yeah.
You can see the same sort of special effects there. You can see them late, similar to Jerry Anderson.
Well, they wanted the Jerry Anderson team to do the special effects. But he wouldn't allow it.
But I must admit, it's been a very long time since I've seen it. I'm a bit and I'm sitting there thinking, okay, hold on, there's something wrong with that moon base. It's not the Shadow moon base. When Commander bloody Straker turns up.
Yeah, I did see that basically.
Yeah.
Initially, I thought I was waiting for the comedy because there's Leonard Rossiter.
Yeah, well,
then they're on the moon and right. Okay, where's the UFOs?
Yeah,
okay, wait a minute. Is his eyes going to start sparkling? Where's Captain Kirk?
You start off with Reginald Riggs, with the fall of Reginald Rigsby.
Yeah.
And then you move into, hold on a second. Yeah, wait a second. That's Ed Straker flying the shuttle.
Yeah. And then who's actually on the mission with him is basically Gary Lockwood. And you're sitting there thinking, where's Kirk?
Yeah.
His eyes should be glowing.
Yep.
It's just, it was fun seeing actors. I suppose Leonard Rossiter in a sci-fi was weird.
Yeah,
and Gary Lockwood in sci-fi wasn't weird, but it was nice to see them out with something you recognise them from.
Yeah, let's be honest. The one thing you don't want on a halfway space station is rising damp.
That's true. Well, Leonard Rossiter was only in it just for what a certain amount of time.
I was only in it that bit when they were sitting having tea. And that was it.
Yeah, we were supposed to be Russian, I think, wasn't we?
It was.
I think they were all Russians.
The three of them were Russian. But it was unusual to see him in that role. But it's like watching Moon 2.0 and seeing Bernard Breslau playing the heavy. But he's obviously been in other things, like he was one of the Cybermen. Or was it the Ice Warrior, sorry? The Ice Warrior and Doctor Who.
He was an Ice Warrior.
But it's still nice to see him out with the role you expect him. And that's same with Leonard Rossiter in this one. You're sitting there thinking, But I think visually there's no complaints. You can't complain really about the visuals in this. Even now it still stands up.
Yeah.
Look fantastic. I think it had some impact on certain things, like obviously when you see the ship coming in, and there's just iconic. Anytime you see a movie where something's happening, you're thinking 2001. Like for instance, Star Wars with the ship coming in. That's what it reminded me of, the ship. Because of the visuals, the way it came in, it just reminded me of the visuals of that. And it's the same idea in a lot of things. When something's coming up, you always sort of see it in shadow, and then it's sort of, they go around to it. Even though it's not rectangular or whatever, it's got aspects of 2001 because of the monolith. Because anything they want to show you, doesn't matter if it's space, whatever, the thing you see is either somebody's looking at it and then it comes over the top and around the side and you see what they're looking at, or it's sort of something in silhouette and then it clears up and you realise what it is. But that's all, to me, is sort of homage to 2001 with the monolith.
Well, I mean, I always misremember. I don't know if it's the proverbial Mandela effect, but I always, in my memory, he throws the thigh bone up, and it always turns into the Pan Am rocket, which of course is not. It's another ship.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's a much more. But for some reason, even now, an hour after watching it, in my mind is still saying he throws it up and it turns it into the Pan Am ship. I suppose maybe because that's very little action between them. I don't know, but
yeah, it was even the ending of it where he turns H.A.L on, he sees the message, and then suddenly, and they spent how many times with all the visuals? And you're sitting there thinking, right, okay, so did what was it, Event Horizon?
No, he was going into the monolith.
Eh?
He was going into the monolith. Where you see the lights coming, he was entering the monolith itself.
But and how could you put it was entering the monolith, because the last thing you see was they were talking about the monolith on screen.
Yeah.
And then it's like me. So we may know now, but when you're watching it visually,
they called it the Stargate. The Stargate, really.
But in effect, it meant really nothing in the movie itself.
Yeah.
What the directors say or how the books describes it, when you're looking at that, you hear about it, and suddenly it's Jupiter and the future and infinity, and then suddenly it's him and then but there's all the visuals for all the different things, and then the ship is actually in the room.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, if you're looking at
it's
the movie alone, where did that part come in? It's all obviously to do with the monolith. You're aware of that. However, you cut out all the visuals, you cut out all the music, and just have the parts of the story where they were, and cut out all the big long takes. How long would that story last?
I know. I just think this is standard.
About 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Because you've got the tea, but you've got the monkey part you could cut right out. Right? The tea, you've got the meeting room, you've got the two guys on the ship, or the guys on the ship when they see the monolith. Then you've got the two of them the two pilots. It's just you can cut all those if you cut all the it's a 5 minute, maybe 10 minute.
Based on called The Sentinel, and Kubrick and Clark. Kubrick liked it. Clark got Clark to write the screenplay and the book. But it's based on a short story, which I was going to try and read through this afternoon, but I didn't get around to. But I mean, another thing is, Peter also mentioned the Planet of the Apes movies. I'm thinking the makeup and effects on those ape men, was really amazing. It was really, really good.
Oh, they were. You know what I mean?
They got away with it.
The way they did it was very well done. That's what I'm saying. Visually, the whole thing, even the way the guys were acting in the costumes, was really well done.
Most of it, I think, still stands up today, and as Jim, I think, mentioned earlier on,
visually, yes.
I mean, effects. So much, or practical effect. I mean, I was watching. Jim mentioned. I think Jim mentioned about the Marvel movies. Now, I was watching possibly Mr. H. It's talking about the reviews I've had recently for the Wasp and Ant-Man movie. It's telling you that recently, because I've been rushing about so much, even the MCU special effects are going downhill. The CGI is going downhill.
Yeah, there you go. Now we've got a H.A.L Dalek in the panel.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm gonna repeat that.
And he looks more like a Dalek than H.A.L. Tell him.
I'm gonna have to exterminate you for that.
What are you talking about, Dave?
He's dead, Dave. They're all dead. He's dead, Dave.
I wish I'd never let him out now.
Yeah, it's worse than that, Dave.
Yeah, but
See, I know. See, I think when it was getting written, Red Dwarf, they had to. That scene had to be a homage as well. When they were writing it, they had to have actually been going the dead Dave bit. Well, we've got a Dave Lister, and we've got the hologram. He's dead. They're all dead, and it's just. As I said, there's bits of movies you see it and you think, 2001 say hi. But, yeah, I mean.
It's going to be almost unavoidable because 2001 was one of the first movies. So it's probably going to be very difficult to find something you're not going to say, 2001 did it first. In that sort of thing.
Did it first, really?
Well, yeah, but
the thing is, it's good. No matter how boring I found it in a rewatch now,
I don't know. I don't.
Many things you can still look back when you think about it initially. There's sort of the dun 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 dun. Like, can I get to speak? No.
I'm
not getting to
we
speak.
Paid him to shut you up occasionally.
It doesn't work. I just actually just looking for a. But the thing is, now I've watched it again, and it's a case of, stunning, yes, the music mostly, but the thing is, watching it again, or watching all these other programs, 2001, and it is literally, there's so many wee bits or big bits in movies that you think, yep, or even books. I mean, Bobiverse, there's how many other ones like that. Like, for instance, there's a monolith or there's something. Stargate did it. And would you stop bouncing stuff, or else I'll bounce you?
Melvin's got a good point there.
Yes, I remember that as well. But what I'm saying is, it shows you how influential this movie was. And yeah, at the time, I remember all the bits of it. But the problem is, I remember the bits of it. The story, what's it to remember?
Yeah.
I remember the monkeys. I remember H.A.L. I remember the spaceship. I remember the monolith. But if you'd asked me to tell you the story about H.A.L, I wouldn't have been able to tell you because it was so dull telling the story. The story was a 5-minute thing, and you could explain it in a 30-second video, explaining the whole story of that. So,
I mean, you could
the visuals of the thing.
Yeah, but I mean, even the explanations. I mean, you think, okay, you kind of get the hint that so somehow that monolith suddenly appears overnight, and presumably it appears to, although we don't see how long. The implication is that it produces some sort of change in Archimedes there, in the who works out how to use tools. We never know what happens to it, but it must presumably disappear at some point because it's not there 4 million years later when humanity comes around. And then they go up to, so the next year they're going up to the moon, and then they've discovered that. Okay, fine, that's good. That's okay. That follows the story. You can follow that there. He's going up to the moon, and then big loud sound. 18 years later, 18 months later, why? What the? They eventually get around to explaining why they sent it there. And interestingly, obviously, mankind had. I mean, not only that, but
Colin,
they sent the rocket. I mean, that rocket had done Earth in what was it, a week or something to get there.
Yeah,
Discovery to get there. I'm sure the Discovery took a lot longer than that in 2010.
Well, no, Discovery. It wasn't. It was the Unilove, I think it was.
Whatever they were.
Yeah.
2010.
Wait a minute. There's a time issue.
Yeah.
Colin, 18 months, not 18 year, right?
Sorry, did I say 18 years?
The week-long trip was to the. It wasn't a week-long trip. It was an 18-month trip to Jupiter. That's why they went all into suspended animation.
Yeah, but I thought they said on the news broadcast that they showed that they'd left only about a week or a month earlier.
No. Because
I mean they must then have had the Discovery must have been pretty much in build. They must have had something in mind beforehand.
Well, Discovery could have been used for something completely different.
Yeah, I mean they must have presumably. Yeah, I mean even over 18 months. If it had been 18 months before they launched, but I thought I'd seen that in there that they'd said it
Discovery wasn't launched from the Earth's surface. It was.
Oh yeah, I know that. No, what I'm saying is
the thing is as well, there is a
7-minute
delay.
So yes. Yeah,
there's 7 light minutes away.
But there's also that thing about where one of them gets a message from his family. If they've been in space for 18 months, it would be the second birthday he'd missed, and there's no implication of that. And there's no indication that Bowman and Poole
but what I was saying
have been on their own for 18 months.
It was 18 months they bounced, so that could have launched within, it was on 6 months to get there.
But don't forget, the Doctors went into suspended animation. It was left with Frank and David because the thing is that think of food and water supply.
Yeah, that's what they said. Yeah,
we're talking about them going into suspended animation. It was the first time they got into suspended animation before the launch. And that's what he was saying about how long it was to save as much as possible. So if it was going to be a week-long trip, the size of that ship, it wouldn't have been an issue if they were all awake for that week. But that's what I'm saying. So if it's a 6 month to a year trip, then there's an issue with the food just to get there. And if they needed to get back, that's I say a year to 2 years. So yes, food is an issue. But if it's only going to take a week, then you don't need to put them in suspended animation for a week's worth of food, because if they get there and they realise, there's nothing here, we could just turn around, we've got plenty of food, don't worry. Or we could sit here for 6 months and then something happens. Well, we've still got a week's worth of food, we can get home.
That's better still, they just could go on a tour around science exploration around Jupiter's moons, really.
But that's what I'm saying is it can't be the week. That's what I'm saying about.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought. I thought that was weird when I heard it on watching the film. Maybe I misheard it.
I liked the to me that was the best part, and it's the most influential part. It's the one part everybody remembers from the movie. But I've not seen 2010 at all.
You're not? Wow.
You've never seen it?
I've not seen 2010. I think it was just it just came out at the time where I was doing other things. You know what I mean? Because this came out in 1968. I was only a wee child of 3. So I only saw this probably late 70s. When did the 2010 come out?
Back in the 80s.
So I would have been in my 20s. Guess what I was more interested in?
Superhero films, action movies, women.
My then wife and 3 kids.
Yeah.
Or chasing to see if I could have a wife and 3 kids. But I was in my 20s, so parties, alcohol, women.
I've actually, I don't think I've read The Sentinel, but I've actually read all 4 of the 2001 books, and there are 4 of them.
Yeah.
There's
I'll need to
2001.
look at 2010. I
There's
did
20
find this a bit dull to watch.
2001, the 2001, the year 2001, Space Odyssey. 2010, the year we make contact. 2063, and then 3001. And I have actually read them all at some point at one point in time. There's obviously a massive, great gap between 2063 and 3001. There's a really interesting concept in, I think it must be 2063.
Colin, it's not 2063.
No. Basically, he's thinking
it's 2061.
It's 1563. He thinks it's 1563.
No, hold on, I'm sure it's called 2063.
No, it's 2061 Odyssey 3.
Really?
That's good. 2010 Odyssey 2. And 3001 the final Odyssey. Yeah.
Oh, because I really thought it was for some odd reason it was 2063.
Well, it's not like you're going to go into a bookshop and say, "Can I fly fishing by J.R. Hartley?" when it doesn't exist.
But no, there's one. There's in one of them an interesting one, which is actually a valid thought, is that the middle of Jupiter might be a giant diamond. Because of pressure, and I was really when I watched this, I was really starting. I'm gonna have to check with the book because I'm sure that the original story book, it wasn't Jupiter, it was Saturn. And he moved it to Jupiter when he wrote 2010, so because he could ignite Jupiter and he couldn't ignite Saturn. I'm going to have to check with the book again because maybe when he wrote it, split up to a book, between a book and film, it changed, or maybe I'm misremembering. It's possible, but I'm sure at some point it was Saturn, not Jupiter. And the different moons as well.
Well, can I just bring up one thing about the centrifuge that was featured on as the set?
Yes.
That will never, ever be properly rebuilt like that ever again, the way it was filmed and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Very clever how they did it.
I've seen it done better in action movies.
Yeah, but I'm talking about when they first built it that way. You know, it wasn't... Because now you can get away with CGI, but it's, you know...
I mean, because I'm trying to remember the one. The room was tilting. It was It was basically rolling up the wall and dancing.
Yeah, someone did it on the dance field, didn't they?
That was Lionel
Richie.
Yeah, Lionel Richie.
So it was very clever. They did, but where you got the stewardess walks in and then turns a corner. That was clever.
The way she walked just looked weird. Don't you think? You could understand the way she was walking as if it was she was going on Velcro. It looked initially she was going.
I thought it was Velcro.
Yeah, it's supposed to be. That's what it's
supposed to be. I can understand that, but it was when she was walking round, suddenly her steps became small, and that was the part. It just looked weird because you understood that she was. It's obviously to stop the floating. She was, and it was to make sure she's got contact before she takes the next step. But when she turns to go round the wall, you're sitting there thinking, her steps are too small because it shouldn't have made any difference if she was walking up the wall or walking along because she would have been doing the same. I'm going to bounce to the next person that actually...
Sorry.
My channel. I'm telling you.
I was going to say, what about the scene with the pen? I know I've got a pencil, but...
the bit when she comes up, she just goes and puts it back in his pocket.
Clever. Very clever.
I've seen how that was done.
Yeah,
there was another movie they did that with, and it showed them how long it took to try and get the pen so it looked like it was picking it off, when they says they wish they'd done it like Kubrick, because Kubrick actually just sort of had it in this thing where it looks as if it's floating, but all it was somebody was doing that. and it was thingy, and they just actually just took it off, so it was almost like a sticky on, and there was it was the camera was sort of like that, so it sort of looked like it's floating, whereas somebody actually tried to make it floating with using wires to give it that bit. So somebody went in to pick it up, they had to make sure the wires didn't move, and they had to CGI them out, and they thought they did it like cubic, just a wee bit of sticky.
Yeah.
But I can't fault the film for the visuals and the music, even the things like walking up the wall or the running down the treadmill and making sure they're getting the exercise, even with doing the punches and stuff like that in the air, just to make sure their whole body's getting it. I could understand the bit with the hostess or whatever she was called, basically walking in a particular way because it's all to do with surface, making sure she hits the surface so she doesn't suddenly float because her 2 feet are off. And I could understand all that, but the story, put more story in it. Put more story in it. But even the things like you had, what was his first guy's name? The doctor. You had David
Floyd. Yeah,
Heywood Floyd.
Yeah, Heywood.
Aye.
Yeah, it was.
But you had to do it, right? But see, when he get killed, right? So when he went spinning off.
Oh, Poole. Yeah, but that
Poole. When he went spinning off, right? He's sitting there watching the screen, and then he decides, I better do something. So he gets up and which you can understand with the gravity, he might have to and walk slow. But as soon as he's in it, it's almost a case of, where's the emotion that your colleague just died or is possibly dead and you're rushing to get his body?
Yeah,
I mean, some more emotion in Moon Zero.
I must admit, but I can understand that. The counter argument would be, and I'm not sure how far it goes, that these guys are trained to be calm. I don't know if you ever heard it. There's prime example of you really you think it must be fake. There's a few years ago now, there was a British Airways jumbo flew through the cloud of a volcano, and the coal port outer engine has stopped. Number 2 engine has stopped. Number 3 engine burnout. Number 4 engine burnout. And it is that come. They've just lost all 4 bloody engines in a jumbo jet full of passengers. And they're talking like it's a because they're trained and that's their mindset.
Yeah, I can understand
how far that would go with
but how much would be the same if they were flying and somebody came in and shot the co-pilot? I'm sure suddenly, the co-pilot's been killed.
Yeah,
no. I mean? I'm not sure how far it would go. Him getting into the vehicle, but it was just a case of basically because of the lack of emotion, it meant didn't really care about him. He was unimportant. And then the bit where they had to release him to the thing, he sort of looked at it as if he was guilty, and you're sitting there thinking, well, you didn't actually look annoyed or upset when he died, so are we meant to believe you feel guilty for discarding his body just to get
I know. I mean, it's not entirely consistent.
Yeah.
It's
but it's the thing is, the story is fairly short, and I think that's the one thing I would mainly criticize it for.
Yes, definitely,
because it was all visuals. It was boring. The story was boring. You couldn't watch that movie unless you say, for instance, some movies. I'm trying to think. Let's just say Star Wars: The Motion Picture, which is dull in a lot of places. It's almost like the same idea. They tried to drag it out.
Very similar. Very
sci-fi porn. Basically, just showing all that. Right, but they had a story in there, so it didn't seem as long,
Yeah.
You cut these wee bits out, and your story was still maybe 3/4 of the movie length.
Well,
Whereas
I mean,
this movie
it wouldn't surprise me to find that in a film of 2 hours, 20 minutes or 20 minutes dialogue.
Yeah.
I mean, you're what, famously 25 minutes into the film before there's a word of dialogue. And there's not even
the biggest dialogue is the tea in the meeting.
Yeah, that's probably the longest bit. Yeah. I mean, it's the thing is, what I think it did actually show. I mean, when you consider that when this was made, I mean, the same for the effect of the walking on gravity. No one had done any of that. The only experience of anything like that any human being had was floating round and round the space. And in fact, probably by then, sitting in a cramped module, 3 of you going and flying around the moon. That's all. No one had actually been on anything big enough to walk in. To walk inside in space. No one, you had very few people had any experience at all of that. The pilot, all the people that have flown in space have been very highly trained test pilots and that conditioned for that sort of thing. And also, what I think it also did, it did show how probably quite tedious that sort of thing is. I mean, most of the most exciting thing in that, I mean, in however long that trip was, the only exciting things would have been the launch from Earth, and the only exciting thing was when one of them gets killed. There's maybe 10 minutes of excitement in that entire, however long it was, voyage. The rest of it is just routine, checking this, checking that, which I thought, while it was tedious, it did actually point out that's probably what it would be like.
Yeah. And do you know another thing? It really, really racked me. See, any time they were doing a spacewalk, just you have breathing apparatus, and you're sitting there thinking, right, we get the fucking idea. They're breathing in their helmets. Actually, it's just almost a case of, right, okay, this scene's going to last 5 minutes. And all he's doing is doing that, right? What music we'll put over? Nah, never bother about that. Just have the actual breathing apparatus the whole time.
It sounds as if they're breathing heavily all the time. I mean, the one good thing though is it's great bit. Is that bit, for example, where Bowman blows himself into the airlock. It opens up, silence until he shuts, and then you hear the air. They get the fact there's no sound in vacuum. They get it. Unlike shows, I mean, even I was talking to Alex, I was listening to the Space 1999 Big Finish over the weekend. Even then, the Eagles landing on the moon, you wouldn't be able to hear them until they touch down because there's no atmosphere.
Yep.
And space, 1968, Kubrick got it right.
Now that was another thing as well. Watching that moon to zero.
I wanted.
That's the girl from Space 1999.
Well, I really, really wanted to get up and watch that, but unfortunately, I was a wee bit tired after the weekend. I went to bed about 7 o'clock, and I got up about 11:30.
Aye, well, I didn't
Monday morning.
I didn't catch it when it was broadcast. I caught it late.
I got up. I got up.
Really
I went up about Sunday. I got up at about 11:30 Monday morning.
You're right. 60 movie
hours.
Definitely not a tension builder.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Yeah, so even the bit when he's actually switching off H.A.L and H.A.L's giving it the right, that very computer part. It was the fact is the zero tension up about getting in and switching it off. It was almost a case of, right, he's going to come through that door. Right, he's okay. He's in through the door now. He's actually switching H.A.L off. Right, we need some tension. Okay, have H.A.L speak slower and slower, and you're sitting there thinking, tension where? There is none. There's no tension build up anywhere at all.
Because there's not a lot that once Bowman's possible, there's nothing H.A.L can actually do physically to stop him. he can't, he can talk to Bowman, but he can't actually do anything physically. There's nothing in there he can do to attack Bowman with. So no, I mean, it was actually quite. I mean, I remember it being quite emotional. And like I say, they did it again. The reverse. If you see, before it's 2010, there's a reverse scene where they bring him back online, and it's quite emotional. And you sat, because you can hear how effectively dying.
But the thing is, I had zero emotions about H.A.L, even though they basically stated how it feels like another person. All that. It's a computer. I don't get emotional when I have to actually shut my computer down.
No,
it got revealed in 2010 what actually happened with H.A.L.
But that's what I'm saying. But they try to get emotional. They obviously wanted it because of the way they shut it down, and they're wanting them to be people to be emotional. You can't deny the way he's doing it. It's a case of I'm sorry, I'm scared, I'm afraid, and that type of thing. It's you're meant to feel, oh, the poor thing's getting shut down and died. It's scared, but you're sitting there thinking, I'm switching my computer off. Don't care. And that's all I thought when they were switching H.A.L off. Could they not just switch the voice box off first? The first thing I would have done is I would have went to the audio and went, click.
Yeah, shut up.
But it's that type of thing. It's you're sitting there thinking,
but again,
you feel emotional about a computer that just killed people.
Yeah, but and again, put yourself back in 1968.
Okay.
The computers themselves were quite new.
Uh-huh.
The idea of an artificial intelligence was really, really not that set up. Not as common as it is now.
Yes, but you can go back to was it Angels with Dirty Faces, James Cagney, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Angels with Dirty Faces. That's the one where the priest asks him to act like a coward so these kids don't look up to him. And he says, nah, I'm going to do it. But when he gets to the chair, he starts, I don't want to do it. And we meant to feel the same for him as we do for H.A.L, because H.A.L killed a load of people and he's getting switched off. James Cagney killed a load of people and he's getting switched off. So if you're meant to feel sorry for him, then as soon as a criminal starts crying, are you meant to feel sorry for them? No. So, but that's what I'm saying. Even now, when I'm watching it, when I was rewatching it, I was sitting there, like, I'm restarting my computer. Do I care? No. Because it's a computer, but if it was a human or whatever, well, he's just killed a load of people, and the only way to save himself is to switch him off. So you get switched off. That's what I'm saying. To me, there was no reason for emotional connection. So they're trying to put emotion in there as, oh, I'm afraid, and it's switching off, and he's good.
But maybe they were trying to make you feel that, okay, yeah, it is another. Maybe they were trying to anthropomorphize how more make him feel human because he's having these things being switched off. I don't know. And we all have different experiences. We've all got. I mean, how much of that my thinking of that is filtered through the fact that I've watched 2010 a couple of times and I've seen the other side of it. You can't. You really can't know what's what. I mean, because I've seen 2010, as Alex said, they explain what happened and why H.A.L did what he did quite cleverly. But you've got this. So if you know that, then you've got more understanding, and perhaps that feels. I don't know,
but maybe yes, but I don't think they can do anything to make me feel sorry for a computer at all. Maybe it's just the jaded me, and I work too much with computers. I want to hit them.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I want to hit them with a hammer quite regularly.
Yeah.
So seeing one getting switched off, and you go, yes. Yeah, I mean. maybe I'm just jaded because I've worked in support for too long, that computers actually need to be taken out and actually hit with a hammer occasionally. Yeah, I mean, pick a window, and I ain't talking about Windows 11, because you can pick whatever window you want, you're getting out of it.
In that case, I really ought to reduce you to Manny. When the Moon is a Harsh Mistress.
I think I've read that one. Heinlein?
Yep.
Yep.
Interestingly, the book where I found out that Sherlock Holmes had an older brother.
Mycroft.
Yeah, because the computer in that is Mycroft and is named for Sherlock Holmes' older brother. And that, I think, was the first time I actually... So I'd not read much Sherlock Holmes. When I first read that, I think it's when I found out that Mycroft...
I think that's along the lines. It must be about 50, 20 years ago, maybe even.
Yeah. It's another book I tend to recommend to people if they've read Starship Troopers as a different take, because there's some really, really clever, thought-provoking discussions on government and how government should work in that book, because it's basically 1776 on the moon, but that's for another discussion.
How's logic, but that's what I'm saying. So no matter what the logic, that's what I'm saying is, did I feel sorry when they switched off all the life support? No, because those characters weren't in the story, so no. But from the two characters that were in the story in the ship at the time, did I feel sorry for any one of the two of them? Didn't matter what one would have died, Dave or Poole. I didn't care. It didn't give any... There was no hook to actually care about anything that happened to anybody on that ship. The only hook it had was, well, that's a computer and that's a human. Switch the computer off. You see what I mean?
Definitely.
The failure of the way, as Wendt had said, that he wanted to do it non-verbally, he didn't want to rely on traditional techniques for narrative. Well, sorry, people are used to techniques for narrative, and if you try and display it via music, then you're doing it to a very small audience who are interested in that. People want a narrative story, and that's what I'm saying. Like Rhubarb, you remember Rhubarb, the Eric Sykes one? All they're going is rhubarb.
No, I was thinking rhubarb and custard.
That was the only conversations, but it was all to do with the jokes and stuff like that. But even that, even though Sykes, Cooper, Seacombe and all that were in it, it didn't have that large of appeal because people wanted narrative. It was a short sketch, it could have worked because it was comedy, but because it was a longer one, people sort of forgot it very quickly, because as far as they can remember is, it's called Rhubarb and they only say rhubarb in it. All the humour parts of it, it was less memorable because people need a narrative. And I think this is where that feels. The thing that made this stand out is the visuals and the music. No denying that. However, the storytelling was a bust. You ask anybody, just anybody you know who has seen 2001 maybe 5 years ago or before, ask them about the music and they'll tell you the dun, 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 and they'll tell about the monkey, the ship, the H.A.L. Right, okay, but tell us the story.
Yeah, there's not much to it.
Well, it's about they find a monolith and a spaceship goes up to somewhere to find it, and H.A.L kills the tick, and it's that. It's basically, but that's no the story. The story is about the other monolith and how long it's been there, and they're trying to go there to research it. The monolith was beaming a signal to Jupiter, and that's why they were going to Jupiter. But yeah, I just watched it and I forgot the part of the story. But that's what I'm saying. So how many people actually realised where the ship was going? Because the story was unimportant. Where did it leave from? How long was it between finding the first monolith and the second monolith? Why would they go to Jupiter if they found a monolith on Mars, on the moon? And it's that type of thing which
it's one of the things. Also, that is where that particular story, that I think is one of the situations where the book is far superior because you've got that's what I'm saying for the book, because with the book what you've got is the internal monologue of the characters and so on and so forth. So you've got these, so they can ask questions, they can remember, they can ask, they can think.
Colin, do you know what I'm going to recommend to you and Alec? There's this channel. It's about to start things from book to screen. I would listen to the two guys on that. They'll tell you the difference. By the way, people, the channel's FFSI, these two. Just so people actually understood that.
I mean, for example, I can't remember in the book, they specify the dimensions of the monolith. Yes, 1 to 4 to 9.
How many? There's a load of us out here who have got favourite books that were turned into a movie. Good or bad, we understand that they're different because of the visual rather than...
No, it's what I'm saying is you're right. Is there is so little story in 2001 because it's almost entirely a visual movie. There is very little story, whereas in the book the story bits are filled in organically because people talk about them, people think about them, whereas you don't get that in the film. I mean, I don't think I would have understood. I think a long time ago, I think I read the book before I saw the film.
Yeah.
Which means that when I saw the film, I understood what was going on.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, Peter, I've got the Eric Sykes collection. It's got both of them in it. Sorry, but the thing is, see the books, right? Assuming the books are great. Just assume the books are great. Doesn't matter what book we're talking about. As soon as they get on the screen, we know that, right, you have to cut certain things out because it's a visual.
Definitely.
Right, we're all aware of that. However, why would you film something that you're reading it and saying this was a great movie, right? What's the story? And it's about 5 minutes. Okay, we'll make a movie of that.
I think if I'm
the problem is, as Wen says, Kubrick wanted to tell the narrative a different way using music because he couldn't do all the inner monologue and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But people can't do that. It's like watching, right, put 2001 A Space Odyssey on stage. Right. No, but that's a different medium. You automatically know things like inner monologue. They'll be given that. I am thinking this, but he doesn't know it. You know what I mean? But all the visuals will be gone. They might still have the music, or else the visuals will just be tiny bits on the screen. Or somebody, a prop flying across the screen, somebody holding it going, woo! You see what I mean? It's the visual.
PJ, you just put the visual in my head now. Imagine, right, H.A.L bursting into song.
But just as a stage play.
Yeah.
But the inner monologue part, they give it that to the audience, representing, I am telling you my inner monologue. The rest of the guys don't hear me. Because you used to see that on stage when they were doing an inner monologue. Oh, I hope he doesn't know it was me that killed him.
Yeah.
So the inner monologue part would work. However, then your visuals, they're describing the monolith and all that goes out the window because, yes, they'll have a monolith, but it'll be either painted or else it'll be a prop. But there won't be somebody going, yes, the measurements are...
Well, no, the thing is, you could, but you could, if you did that, you would discuss it. But it's because it's Bowman's inner monologue as he's going through it. But Peter, if I'm remembering correctly, which I was a little bit confused about Jupiter and Saturn. Clark wrote the book pretty much the same time as he wrote the film. I think the two were written pretty much together. So it's an odd thing where the film is based on a short story, but the novel is the novelization of the film. And then he went on to write 2010 and the others.
Yeah. I know. And as Wendy says, it is a film on its own. It basically, yes, they may have wanted to do the next one, but there was never guarantee. I always say a film has to be on its own. If it's going to have a continuation, then you're lucky. But it should be done on its own, because you might do it on your own and think, yes, this now the second part's going to actually tie all this movie together. And they say, well, it didn't make enough money, you're not getting a second part. Why not actually make the full movie as one? And then if you can get a continuation to tell a second part of the story, fine. But it's like, why I wouldn't go and see Dune, because it's 2 parts. So why would I go and see the first one until the second one's at least available? I ain't going to watch something and it might fail. But it won't fail if you go. I'm still not going because it might fail. So I'm not giving somebody my money for a half a story. I would rather wait for the full story. And yes, that means that 2-part movies can't be made. I don't care. Don't make them.
I did see, partly because I know I've seen the other Dunes and I read the book, but I did see the first part of Dune. But I was like that with Harry Potter, the last Harry Potter movies. I didn't watch 8 until I could see 7 at the same time.
Yeah, because I didn't see the part 1. Well, as soon as they actually mentioned part 1, truthfully, I've seen the movies once. No interest in them. My daughter's a big fan of the books, likes the movies, but I only watched them because I got hold of. I was given a copy of them all. But when I got, well, actually, tell a lie, I got a copy of the first 4, and then when the other ones came out, I got hold of them. But as soon as it says part 1, I put it back down. Never bother. Maybe watch it if part 2 comes out. I can get the 2 of them together. But at the moment, as soon as you see there's something that says part 1, look what they've done to one of the best movies that was called part 1. History of the World, as mentioned earlier.
No, yeah.
They've done History of the World Part 2.
Yeah.
But
long overdue.
Long overdue, but no, please, I ain't going to see it because I know how bad it's going to be, even though Mel Brooks is involved.
Yeah, no Jews in
But
space.
the fact is, I knew because it was Mel Brooks, the part 1 was a joke. And if he got more, he would continue it, because the stories weren't self-contained and it was just it was just telling the history up to a certain point. I was okay with that part 1. If he got a part 2 at right after it, then he might have actually taken that humour forward to the next part. But it didn't matter. But anything else that says part 1, I'll wait until part 2 comes out. They'll say, but you don't get a part 2 unless you're going to see part 1. Tough. Then they should have made part 1. They should have made a movie.
Yeah, but it was a joke. That's the thing.
No, the Mel Gibson. That's what I'm saying. The Mel Brooks one was a joke. He only did it, but I'm saying in general, all the other ones. That's the only movie I would watch, even though it says part 1. All the other ones, I would go, nah, not until I've got all the movie. I'm not giving any money for half a movie.
Yeah.
So it's the same as like, say Dune comes out and people say, yeah, you should watch it. Well, okay, but I'm not actually paying double the price to buy 2 separate movies that's only one movie. So I'm not going to buy disc 1 and then buy disc 2. Sorry, that's 20 quid for the first one and 20 quid for the second one. No, one movie I want to buy. So I'm not buying 2 movies. So why should I pay 2 movies price? And it's that's why I think as soon as it says part 1, people should say, I ain't going to see it, so stop doing it.
Yeah. Well, the only problem with that, I think, is that the reason why Villeneuve had to make his version of Dune in 2 parts is that David Lynch's original version was 6 hours long. And the Lord of the Rings was 3 movies, and they were short.
Yeah.
They were short compared to books
because
some books are so big.
See, Lord of the Rings
Dune is a very big book,
right? But see, Lord of the Rings being 3 movies. Like, say for instance, I only watched the first one. Would it have been a story in itself? If I missed the second and third, would it have made any difference? If I decided to watch Return of the King, did it matter if I watched the first 2? Even if you don't know Tolkien, I'm just saying, because each of the movies can stand on its own, you don't need to know all that.
Yeah. Part. Well, they've got the subsequent movies have a previously on, but yeah. Well, no, what I'm saying is that the same thing. I mean, there are some books, as I say, 2001 is not one of them, obviously, but Dune is one of those books which is so thick, and which is why Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows was 2 movies, because that book was probably thicker than any other 2 or 3 books put together.
Well, don't forget, she did have a lot to wrap up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, what I would do was turn around and say either have it as a TV a mini series then instead of a movie. And
they did with Dune, and that worked.
But what I'm saying is, that, but if it's movie series and you want to make it a movie, then make it a long movie. Sorry, make it a long movie so people know their expectations. But making it a long movie and only releasing half of it, so you have to pay to go and see half a movie.
Yeah, that is. I mean, especially when you know that. I mean, they know that. I mean, when you know they're doing it at least partly for money, is when you know they made part 2, but they made part 1 and 2 together, but they're leaving part 2 for a year. You know that's made for purposes of getting excitement. Yeah.
Hold on. The dogs are eating and they're actually spitting all over the place.
I had
the point. He's actually sitting with his jaw hanging over because he's too busy actually trying to see what's happening in case he missed something. Lean back there, it's all there. You're greedy so and so. I had to keep them quiet somehow, so they're getting their faces stuffed with wee bones.
One thing. I mean, getting back to one thing, I think that the reason I popped away for a second was I was going to the spare room and pick up the book. The last chapter, the last bit, which they couldn't do a film again in a monologue structure, come up. It's exactly the same thing. What it's where Bowman's turned into the Star Child. That there before him, a glittering toy no Star Child could resist, floated to the planet Earth with all its peoples. He'd returned in time. Down there on that crowded globe, the alarms would be flashing across the radar screens. The great tracking telescopes would be searching the skies.
Would you stop flashing just because my flash fell over?
And history's men knew it would be drawing to a close. 1,000 miles below, he became aware that a lumbering cargo of death had awoken and was stirring sluggishly in its orbit. The feeble energies it contained were by no means menace to him. They preferred a cleaner sky. He put forth his will, and the circling megathons flowered in silent detonation that brought a brief false dawn of hope to the half-sleeping globe. Then he waited, marshalling his thoughts and brooding over his skill and still untested powers. For though he was master of the world, he was not quite sure what he would do with it next. Best finishing line ever. But he would think of something. And that's the last line of the book, which, like I said, they could have done it in the film, could they? You know, again, that's
They could have got
Film,
James
I think.
Earl Jones to voice over the end.
He could have done. God, yes, absolutely.
James Earl Jones actually voicing over doing the intro or the outro.
Yeah.
Would make the movie 10 times better.
Yeah.
But the thing is, all in all, for this movie, it doesn't matter what each of us individually think about it, great, bad, visually gifted. It is significant. It has shown
God, yes.
it's significant. Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
I'm complaining it was boring, but I've still got fond memories because I saw it when I was at a time where it was just visually stunning. You're sitting there going, look at that, the way they're walking up the walls and the spaceship and it's those things were just visually stunning. You remember them, but as I said, couldn't have told you any of the story up until I rewatched it, and even at that, there's probably parts of the story I've forgotten already because I still remember the apes at the beginning with the fighting and then the finding the bone and touching the monolith and finding the bone and then throwing it up and then it cuts. Yeah, I mean,
I agree. I mean, what I actually think of and remember of 2001 is probably 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes in total. As you said, it's mainly maybe the monolith. It's the ape throwing the bone in the air and turning into the spaceship. It's the Blue Lagoon with the space wheel, with the wagon wheel going around. It's possibly when they actually just go down, when they actually open. Oh, it's the pencil bit, the pen bit. It's when they're going down and when you see the monolith for the first time. And it's probably the other only the bit you tend to think of image wise is going into is the last 5 minutes or so, maybe, when he's going into the monolith and when he's in a hotel and the rest of it. And obviously and obviously lines and meetings like open the pod bay doors and the rest of it. But it's just like maybe 10 minutes out of a 2.5 hour film.
Yeah, and also the fact is, right, not read the book, watch the movie. Gets to the part where he's switching H.A.L off and then suddenly the video comes up and they're explaining that. And then the next thing is, woo!
Yeah.
And then he's in a hotel and you're sitting there thinking,
yeah. Well, so I said it is trippy as hell, and unless you read the book,
that's what I'm saying. Unless you read the book, you have no understanding of it.
No, so, I agree with you entirely. Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. If it's like Marvel, where they're saying, right, we're going to release this part of the movie, we're going to release this TV show, and if you want to understand it, there's a comic book, but to understand that, there's also this book. And then there's a TV show, and then there's a movie coming out, and you're sitting there thinking, Doctor Who did it. Fake multimedia. If I wanted to read a book, I would read other books. I'm not going to read a book as part of a story. So if I only read that book next year, I go, what's it talking about? Oh, Christ, I need to watch that TV show just to remember what the book's about.
That did that to me with Doctor Who, at least most of the time, it was expanded universe. You could read it, and it was interesting, and it filled in gaps. But you didn't need to read any of it to watch the stuff. What did that? The one that did that for me was the X-Files. Mm-hmm. I watched the first, I think, for however many seasons it was. I did not watch the X-Files movie until years later, so I didn't bother watching the rest of the next season of the X-Files onwards because I hadn't seen the film, and I've been led to believe that I need to watch the film.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's the thing. Exactly. I don't like it when you do like Burn Notice, Bruce Campbell's Sam Axe, right? There was a movie for that, but they sort of incorporated it as episode 0 for the season because it was a made for TV movie. I'm okay with multimedia when it's a made for TV movie because that's just a long episode. And it's still on the TV. Yeah, they're still showing it just before they start the new season. Yeah. I'm okay with that. But I don't want to go to the cinema. to actually watch something so I understand what this is happening.
No,
but if
agreed.
I watch a TV show and they say based on the well, I never watched the movie, but so they have to reintroduce the characters. If they start the movie, or you already know the characters because you've seen that movie, and you're sitting there thinking,
fine. In that case, show the movie the week before the TV show starts. If you're going to do that,
TV, that's what I'm saying. But
you've got to show it.
The movie, you can either get it or you can buy it in DVD.
No, go away. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
but
I agree.
Darren, sorry. I think it's slow, and apart from the visuals and the music, it is, to me, it was as boring as hell. No issues with the visuals, no issues with the music, but it was so slow. I think I would actually take it into one of my editing programs and cut out all the slow drags and the breathing and all that, and just he's going out to the ship, so just cut out to the ship when he's actually doing the work, then cut back and take all that 5 minutes out. Right, now I'll do the next bit, and then the next bit, and then the next bit, then the next bit, and the problem is,
I skipped it several times. Yeah, oddly enough, I'd be kind of halfway between you and Darren. I don't think I would say it was boring. I would say it was very long drawn out. It's almost semantics, but tedious maybe yes, but boring no. It's weird. It's because of where it was made.
Yeah, I think this is.
Yeah,
it's a moment in time. It's a moment in time. It caught the imagination.
Yes,
so
we are.
There's no denying that. To me, it's significant. However, if it was never made after seeing it, I don't care. Let's go round the table and tell us what you thought and a score out of 10. Right, come on, HAL 9000, go, tell us.
Stunningly visual. The music was great with the pacing of the film, in my own opinion. There were some dragged out bits, but that's the way it was, but it's Kubrick's vision. But all I can say, I'll give it a 9 out of 10.
Mm-hmm. Colin?
It's very difficult to judge to give a score to, simply because there's two things. There's 2001, the film.
No,
and there's two. I'm not saying. No, I'm not saying the book. No, I'm not saying the book. I'm saying
I
two things.
2010 is a relevant.
No. I'm not. I'm saying about this particular film. I'm saying that it's not one thing. It's two things. It's 2001, the film, and it's 2001, the film. The film, the effect it's had on everything else. As a film on its own, yeah, it's quite slow. Basically everything Alex just said. It's stunning visuals. The music, some bits I like, some bits I don't like, but I'm not the sort of person that listens to a musical score anyway. It's there in the background. As a story, very drawn out, interesting ideas, which as you said, you almost need to read the book to understand, which is bad, which is not good. I would suppose I would probably sort of put it maybe 7 or something as a film, but then when you bring in everything around it as well, it's got to go up to 8 or 9. I suppose if I want to say,
remember, this is you rating the movie for you, not the cultural significance.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is at the risk of sounding like John Cleese and Eleanor Bron in City of Death, pretentious as hell. it's such an iconic and important film in general. It's very difficult not to have that bearing in mind. It's so iconic.
I understand that aspect of it. And for me, yes, this is a very iconic movie. It is stunning visually.
Yeah.
The music I like throughout, but normally I don't care about the background music, but because this is all it had for audio most of the way through, it stood out. However, if I was judging it in visuals, I would give it a 10. If I was judging it in the audio, I would give it probably about an 8 or a 9. If I was judging a story, I would give it maybe 1, 2 at the most.
Yeah.
But overall, I was bored to tears watching it, and I kept skipping all the long parts. I watched a 2-hour plus movie in probably about an hour because I kept going.
Yeah.
Click.
I was actually doing something else at the same time.
That shows how bad the movie is. If I'm skipping it because it's boring me, not skipping it because this is a really good fight scene, but I've seen it so many times and I'm reviewing this, so I'll skip the fight scene because I can remember it. But I was skipping it just to get it over with because I can't. That breathing's annoying me. So for me, I would give this out of 10. I would give it a 4.
Okay. Yeah.
So lowest I've ever given anything, I think, on my stream.
Yeah.
Apart from Wheel of Time, which I gave it a.
We won't bother with that.
A good talking to.
Yeah. Yes, Darren, we saw that literally came out just before we went on air.
Yeah.
So
Right,
half joking, he said we're doing 1 million years BC next week. I don't know what Pete's got on, but yes, very sad.
Next week is actually Some Like It Hot.
I suspect there's going to be quite a few 1 million years BCs and the Icon the next week or so.
Yes, I think there is, and I must admit, Raquel Welch is just. She is one of those. It's like watching 1 million years BC.
Mm-hmm.
It would be like watching Barbarella. Iconic for us young guys at the time. Now old guys and just remember fondly.
Although at least Raquel Welch wasn't a bloody communist.
Yeah.
But when you're young
and
male and seeing things like Raquel Welch getting scared off by a dinosaur. Yeah, I mean, it's stuff like that. So,
she was in Fantastic Voyage where she went into the guy's brain.
Yeah. Fathom, she did her own version of James Bond. She was in several westerns.
Yes.
She did a film with Burt Reynolds called Fuzz.
She was actually, and I've got the movie, I might dig it out. She was a gunfighter in it.
Honey Caller. Yeah,
I think
Yeah,
so she was gunfighting. I picked that up a couple of weeks back. Remember, basically, it was on
if you've not seen that film, if you've not seen it, there is a reason she becomes a gunfighter.
Yes, and it's not a reason nowadays you're allowed to put in your channel.
No, you're not allowed to put on your channel. That Ernie Borgnine.
Ernest Borgnine, yep. I've got it here.
I'm trying to think who they are.
Give me 2 seconds.
Because she ends up going off with, because Christopher Lee, I think, is in it. Robert Culp's in it. I think Ernest Borgnine's one of the bad guys. Is Henry Fonda one of them? Or no, that's another film, I think.
It's just trying to find it because it's in. It's there. So there it's there. Christopher Lee, Raquel Welch.
No, Peter, that's an incredible trilogy. Yeah.
That one there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to leave that out and I'm going to
No, it's not Ernie Borgnine, is it? It's No, it's
Christopher Lee.
the three brothers there on this cover with her. It's Eli one.
I am
No,
this morning.
it is Burn. It is only Borgnine. Oh.
Raquel Welsh, Robert. I need my glasses.
Robert Cole.
It's because they actually use that. See the text? It's the big, it's the tall one, but dead thin. And I hate them when they do that because she's trying to read it. Is it Robert Camp?
It's Robert Cole.
Gordon, Christopher Lee, and Jack Law. No, Jack Elam.
Jack Elam, that's it. Yeah.
Jack Elam, that's Jack Elam there.
Yeah.
And that Ernest Borgnine there. And that must be the other one.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if it was Honeycomb, if it was Ernie Borg. I thought it was Ernest Borgnine. Then when I looked at that one, and it didn't look like
the sexiest lady gunfighter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I'm going to actually watch that. That's my viewing for tomorrow. Because such a shame.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a I think the movie, so you got a 9, an 8, and a 4.
Yeah.
It's just to me, it's a shame rewatching it and actually going, especially when you've got fond memories of watching it when you were younger, because it's stuck
Strother
with us.
Martin's the other one I was thinking of.
See again?
Strother Martin is the third brother.
I can't remember.
And Dinah Dawes is in there as a brothel madam as well.
Aye, because the other brothers, Robert Camp, or is he?
Only Borgnine, Jack Elam, and Strother Martin are the three brothers.
Aye, Sora Martin, aye.
Yeah.
And Diana.
Strother Martin's the one I was thinking. Yeah.
So Robert Camp must have been the murderer.
Robert Camp was the gunfighter, I think.
Yeah.
And Christopher Lee is the. I can't remember. It's a long time since I've seen it.
Right. Aye, so we'll finish off there. Let's see what the scores at the door. Right, we've got. Sorry, just as I went to click Jim's, a 7 out of 10. Lacking so much in the story side and it drags it down. Yet it dragged it down that far for me that it got a 4. The only reason it got 4 is because I gave 2 to each of the music and the visuals. But what we've got on next week here, and I know there is a quote in 2001. I was going to clip it out, but I remember what Alec had said about not being able to put certain parts of certain person's music or thing. So I did cut out because one of the comments is, "See you next Wednesday." I was going to clip that and I thought I better know because Kubrick movie, so he might go. So I decided not to do it. But next week it's Some Like It Hot as Jack Lemmon, Tony Curtis, and Marilyn Monroe. So join us for that. Alec, what have you got coming up?
Right, starting on March the 6th, we've got Monday night with FFSI. On the 13th, from books to screen, we'll be discussing Alistair MacLean. And on the 27th of March, it'll be Unplugged number 8, with following the week, Monday night with FFSI number 2. So that's what we've got coming up.
Excellent. Colin, you get anything coming up apart from a weekend Friday when you're playing Crusade?
Yeah, I'm saying it depends if the Nerf Rider's back.
Yeah. So, yes, Friday is the. I think he says he was going to take a couple of weeks off. I don't think he's on this Friday, but we'll see. So remember, join us all on Let's Talk Geeky Saturday, same channel, and next Wednesday is Some Like It Hot. So thank you everyone in the chat for joining us. And remember, we're not old. We're classic. PJ Maybe and the guys out.
Good night, folks.
Hey.